connecting you to the future. After one flawless mission, ESA prepares its new spacecraft for a second flight. A new concept car from Switzerland. And travel in Antarctica and moves towards emissions reform. The European Space Agency is working on its second automated transport vehicle. Last year, the first ATV, known as Jules Verne, delivered supplies to the International Space Station. The second supply ship has just been named Johannes Kepler, after the German astronomer and mathematician. The ATV's second mission, due for mid-next year, will deliver oxygen, food, water and equipment to the International Space Station, staying docked with the orbiting platform for a further 6 months, periodically boosting its orbit and serving as a repository for waste. Like the Jules Verne before it, the Johannes Kepler will then be jettisoned to burn in the atmosphere over the Pacific Ocean. The ATV is around 10 metres long, with a dry weight in excess of 10 metric tonnes, and it docks automatically with the space station.
One of the strategic reasons why the European Space Agency was so keen to have our own automated transfer vehicle with its own rendezvous and docking with the space station was this technology is exactly the one you need to go and rendezvous with other craft that are going to go, say, for Mars. Before man will actually go on to Mars, if we want to bring back samples from Mars, we're going to have automatic rendezvous and docking near Mars.
The automated transfer vehicle is a new generation of unpiloted cargo carriers that supersedes the Russian-built Progress cargo ship. Though the Progress has a reliable history, the ATV has a substantially greater cargo capacity. The craft is designed to dock with the space station's Russian Zvezda module, which is fitted with an array of retro-reflectors that work in conjunction with the ATV's laser-guided docking system. At a distance of 249 metres, the ATV slows to 7 centimetres per second, and it begins to emit pulsed laser beams, which are passively reflected by the retro-reflectors. At any stage, the crew on the ISS can override the automated docking procedure.
For people who stay 7 months in orbit, any visit by crew or by resupply ship is like entertainment psychologically to divert from the regular routine work every day.
Because the space station's orbit is in gradual decay, it needs regular boosting to maintain its altitude. While the ATV remains docked with the ISS, it will carry out regular engine burns. There are at least 7 ATV missions scheduled. Car makers represented at the recent Geneva Motor Show are feeling the effects of the international economic slowdown. Industry watchers pay close attention to this show. Because the Swiss have no vehicle manufacturing industry of their own, the Geneva show has a reputation for lack of bias. Concept cars on display included Mazda's Taiki. The two-seater has a new generation rotary engine. The twin pressures of recession and environmental concerns are leading to a focus on smaller, more fuel-efficient cars. There is a strange atmosphere hanging over the world car industry. With American giants like Chrysler and General Motors on their knees, and other industry leaders like Toyota making losses, car makers are in a holding pattern waiting for demand to recover. Luxury makers like Rolls-Royce say they are not being badly affected by the financial squeeze, with strong sales in Asia, though European demand is levelling. The Phantom Coupe is the third new model from Rolls-Royce since the BMW Group took control of the company. In 2005, the Bugatti Veyron was introduced as the world's fastest production car. It's also one of the most expensive. Although there is no Swiss car manufacturing industry, The Rinspeed company has specialised in vehicle modification and in imaginative concept vehicles. The iChange is billed as the first car whose body adapts to the number of passengers on board. At the push of a button, the single-seater Sports transforms into a comfortable car with ample room for three. It's lightweight and energy efficient, but it's also radically different. There's no key. It's replaced by an Apple iPhone, which also controls the most important vehicle functions. At its heart is the next-generation Harman Kardon infotainment system. The system uses Intel processor technology that guarantees minimum power, and the same is true for the audio system. The route guidance system is especially eco-friendly. It calculates the most fuel-efficient route and displays the directions in an easy-to-read 3D view. Rinspeed believes that the days of heavy fuel-hungry cars are coming to an end, and the iChange reflects this idea. The teardrop-shaped car does not have doors, combining structural integrity with light weight. Access is via the tilting canopy. Its electric motor draws power from lithium-ion batteries, available in short and long-distance configurations. According to the British Heart Foundation, heart and circulatory diseases cause over 208,000 deaths in the UK each year. The arteries that supply the heart with blood can become severely narrowed, and if a blockage occurs, a heart attack results, which can cause death or serious injury. Now, early diagnosis of coronary artery problems, combined with a relatively non-invasive surgical technique known as angioplasty, is saving lives.
The artery is opened up more effectively, restoring the blood flow to the heart muscle more effectively. The artery becomes stable after a primary angioplasty, so it reduces the chance of the artery blocking off, and that translates into the patient getting better quickly, more quickly, and also having less chance of having problems in the weeks and months following their heart attack.
Currently in Britain, the most common treatment for heart attacks is thrombolysis, the injection of drugs to combat clots. But angioplasty is now considered a more effective alternative. The primary angioplasty procedure involves inserting a tube into the heart via the vein in the top of the leg. When in position, a small balloon is inflated to widen the artery, and a tubular mesh structure is inserted to hold it open. The artery becomes stable, so it reduces the chance of becoming blocked again. And this substance could prove invaluable in repairing brain injury. People suffering from Parkinson's disease or strokes could benefit from the promising research that repairs neural pathways in the brain.
What we've engineered is a new type of material, which is what we call a smart material, which is a liquid at room temperature, but we can inject it into the body or in the brain, and it will solidify and turn into a solid material at 37 degrees.
The biodegradable polymer acts like a scaffold, and researchers say that it can support the growth of new brain cells. It integrates with the brain tissue.
So when we inject this material into the brain, we've found that it causes minimal inflammation and scarring. So that means that it's possible for this material to integrate within the brain tissue. And that's really important when you're trying to treat Parkinson's disease, so that you can try to get these nerves to regrow from one part of the brain to another.
The team used existing polymer-based biodegradable fibres, 100 times smaller than a human hair, and re-engineered them to create a unique 3D scaffold. It is made from a seed, and scientists say that because it's naturally derived material, it's one of the reasons it is non-toxic to brain tissue. The long-term goal of the Monash University research is to help repair damaged pathways in the brains of patients with Parkinson's disease or spinal cord injury. These kinds of brain disorders lead to a loss of contact between the lower parts and the middle of the brain.
What happens is there's a death of neurons in the base of the brain, and then there's an associated loss of conductivity between the base of the brain and the middle of the brain. So potentially, if we could develop a scaffolding material that could encourage nerves to grow across that distance, we could treat some of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease.
When the nervous system is damaged, extensive inflammation results, which leads to the removal of tissue debris. But it also leads to scarring that impedes the regrowth of healthy nerve cells. By providing a guidance channel, the new scaffold material could encourage nerves to regenerate across the physical barriers presented by scarring within the brain or spinal cord. The development of the material is still in its early stages. Another worrying symptom of global warming, the vast Wilkins ice shelf is breaking loose from its connection to the Antarctic Peninsula. Around the world, weather incidents are becoming more extreme. In some places, flooding is more frequent, and long-held records are being broken and broken again. Many of the now visible effects of global warming are consistent with earlier predictions, but it is difficult to know at what rate changes will continue to unfold. Estimates about the degree of planetary warming vary, but the extra heat means higher rates of evaporation, and the increased levels of water vapour in the atmosphere mean more extreme rain events and floods. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's most recent assessment says that the average global temperature will continue to rise. However, the extent and duration of this rise and the severity of its consequences depend on how quickly and how effectively emissions of greenhouse gases can be restricted and, over time, reduced. Yet, while some areas are experiencing chronic flooding, other places are experiencing long-term drought. Shifting weather patterns mean that marginal areas are no longer able to support grazing or agriculture. The global temperature rise is leading to an increase in extremes like wildfire and heat waves. Since pre-industrial times, atmospheric levels of CO2 have risen by more than 1/3, mainly because of the burning of fossil fuels. To meet our need for power without increasing concentrations of carbon dioxide, governments around the world are setting renewable energy targets, and wind farms are becoming common. Currently, wind-generated power accounts for only 1.5% of the world's electricity usage, but this figure is rapidly increasing. Europe is the leader of offshore wind farms because of the abundance of steady winds and shallow waters. North Hoyle, 7.5 kilometres off the coast of North Wales, covers an area of 10 square kilometres. It's a typical offshore generation site with 30 Vestas V80 wind turbines, each rated at 2 megawatts. The site has a maximum output of 60 megawatts. When this was built, it was the most powerful wind farm in the UK. On the Greek island of Crete, wind power has been used since antiquity for pumping water. This site at Rovos has 11 turbines with a maximum output in excess of 9 megawatts. Modern wind turbines have diameters from 40 to 90 metres and are rated between 500 kilowatts and 2 megawatts. Makers seem to have settled on a 3-blade configuration, although smaller units still have 2 blades. It is desirable for the blades to be as light as possible, so the turbine can quickly respond to changes in wind velocity. In Denmark, almost 20% of electrical power is generated by wind turbines. Cold weather presents designers with special problems. Wind turbines must be protected from ice accumulation, which can cause high structure loads and damage. Some turbine manufacturers include internal heaters for cold climate turbines, though this will reduce the site's efficiency. No emissions power generation is just one part in the transition the world has to make if we're to avoid catastrophic climate change. Everything that uses power must be redesigned so that energy is not wasted and CO2 is not produced needlessly. Free energy from the sun and wind is playing a bigger part in building design. Just outside the city of Freiburg in southwest Germany, the district of Vauban has been remodeled as an eco-friendly zone. Homes built in Vauban must follow low energy standards. These include triple thick glass windows and walls of compressed natural materials that help conserve energy. And the area has strict limits on car traffic.
Ultimately, I believe with the increase of prices of fossil fuel, we will see that these kind of housing and quality of life at the end is well worth and is also payable and affordable.
An eco-friendly house in Vauban costs around 15% more than a conventional house. By 2020, the EU aims to cut emissions by 20%. Motec Medical in the Netherlands has developed a virtual body double, which could prove to be an invaluable tool to fitness fanatics or patients trying to regain movement. The motion capture system, known as the Human Body Model, or HBM, provides a new view of how the muscles and skeleton of a person are working. The system collects two sets of data. The first data stream is provided by a set of cameras positioned around the installation. They register the position of reflective dots fixed to the clothing. Each camera has a ring light surrounding its lens. This light reflects off the dots and directly back to the camera. The second set of information comes from a special standing platform that moves in vertical and horizontal positions. Users carry out exercises, such as running on a treadmill. The 47 reflective markers are placed in the positions of specific joints and muscles. Sensors on the floor of the treadmill are used to measure the force applied to the ground by the user's feet, to give more information on their muscle output and the load on their joints. The system enables physicians and patients to view, analyse and improve muscle activity during rehabilitation and training programs. The technology is designed as a diagnostic tool.
Het is voor de eerste keer dat je de functie van de bewegingen in
This is the first time you can show the functions of the muscles live, in real time.
verschillende applicaties te gaan.
This allows you to apply it to many applications, not only for use in normal rehabilitation, but also in sports and fitness exercises.
A sister company, Motec Entertainment, uses comparable technology for the entertainment and gaming industry. Physicians can immediately show patients in rehabilitation how to use certain muscles in different ways, and doctors are very interested.
The system is ideal for patients who have run into a block in their rehabilitation. They can now see and feel what is happening, and they advance much quicker.
This man is using the system to help with problems after a hip replacement. And in the Dutch Military Rehabilitation Centre in Doorn, the HBM is being tested with leg problems. Michael Hartman is a 24-year-old Dutch Marine who is dealing with a complex knee injury. He is using the HBM once a week. His 6-month-long treatment began 3 months ago. Not only is Hartman aware that his knee is improving, but he says that the rehabilitation is like fun with a great big computer game. The HBM system has a range of applications outside rehabilitation, and movement specialists are keen to use the system as a research tool. Although the technology still has a long way to go before it's validated as a medical rehabilitation tool, all those involved with its use are very positive. Colonel Wertheim says he's convinced that the system is already helping people to a speedy recovery. And in Sweden, neuroscientists are using virtual body doubles to explore psychological aspects of the way we see ourselves. The outputs from stereo cameras on one person's head are fed to the virtual reality goggles on a partner's head.
We're interested in knowing how we come to experience that we own our body. And to do that, we have taken a classical approach in psychology. We study perceptual illusions. And by studying these illusions, we learn more about normal perception.
In the next experiment, fingers on the subject's left hand have an electrolytic gel applied and electrodes attached. Then the headset is put back on, and the dual cameras feeding it are placed on a mannequin. After careful alignment of the cameras, the subject starts to get the illusion that he is in the mannequin's body. When physical sensations that the subject receives match his visual input, the person starts confusing his own body with the dummy. The research is relevant for body image disorders.
The illusion starts right from the first. Like when you move your head down and look at your body, it just sort of automatically places itself on you because your brain sort of rewires the visual information. And then once she started brushing the pen against my stomach, I mean, it just snapped like that. So I viewed the mannequin's body as being my body.
If everything is correctly adjusted, the subject will feel alarm when the mannequin's body is threatened by a knife. Even though there is no pain, the impression continues that the mannequin's body is his own.
You have the reaction, because it's not like she's trying to stab me with it, but you do have the reaction to just sort of pull away a little bit because it really seems like she's about to put something sharp against my stomach. Not panic or anything like that, but it's just an automatic kind of, startle response.
The study, in which 87 volunteers participated, consisted of repeated sessions that gradually provided more accurate data. The results were published in the online journal of the Public Library of Science. The principal finding was that under certain conditions, a person can perceive another body as his or her own, even if it is of an opposite gender or an artificial body. Body image disorders are linked to conditions like anorexia, so the research has medical implications. But developers of virtual reality games are also interested in the findings.